Looks like we are live. Welcome everybody to Monday Funday. And I know yesterday was one of the biggest days of the year, Super Bowl for the football fans. Even though we're in Canada, right? We don't really get a team or anything like that. Andrew, did you enjoy Super Bowl?
Uh, I heard about the aftermath of the Patriots winning. Again, I think what I enjoyed most is knowing that Tom Brady is truly a high performer. Other than that, I didn't watch a single minute. Could it be that I was celebrating my father's birthday? I was on a couple leadership calls. I was on a team meeting. So even on a Sunday, you got to be a high performer. So I'm doing my thing. Brady's doing his. Did you check the game?
Yeah, I actually watched it. I had it on in the background. It was a boring one though. That was really the
Low
the only
scoring
knock
from
I
what
have
I
on it.
saw.
Yeah, it was like a straight defensive kind of game. So it was, yeah, a bit boring.
But what wasn't boring though was the feast
Yeah,
that,
guilty.
that you got to dabble in. So
Yeah.
while I had an afternoon Greek meal with my family celebrating my father's 74th birthday, and followed by a small red delicious apple, a little bit of natural peanut butter for dinner. That was it. Just a light, before I went to bed. On the other hand, we have this doppelganger where on the other side, Ricky's watching the football game. And what happened, Ricky? I heard about like this cataclysmic, caloric, like adventure
I'm
you went
ashamed
on.
to admit it. I'm ashamed to admit it. So
Why? Own it, man. It sounded delicious.
yeah, I'm wearing red on purpose. I'm like the little devil sitting on the shoulder. You're the angel, right? Like
Yeah.
have an apple. No, eat nachos. So yeah. So yesterday was Super Bowl Sunday, and literally it's a day where people feast, and I'm guilty of it. I had some nachos. I had some potato salad. I had some really high carb stuff. So it wasn't a traditional Ricky weekend or a traditional high performance weekend by any means. And you kind of feel it in the morning. So, as many of you guys know, that we track everything with Aura Rings. So, this is a very sophisticated tracker. Andrew has his on, and we picked the same fingers. I wonder why, right? So, we're not going to kind of stick them out here, but
I won't
yeah,
even stick it up. We won't go there yet.
for those of you who don't know what an Aura Ring is, it's the most sophisticated sleep tracker that you can wear. It also tracks your heart rate variability, your resting heart rate. And as you can see, Andrew's holding his up to the screen. It has infrared sensors on the inside that check your body temperature, your pulse rate, and it really lets you know your sleep cycles as well. So with me, I've been tracking for about, I think, 8 or 9 days yet. I just got it that long ago, but my heart rate has been pretty good. My resting heart rate has been pretty good. It's been pretty smooth. Yesterday, or technically this morning when I woke up, first time I saw a big spike, and it was because I ate food I haven't ate in a long, long time. And it's actually one of the ways you can track food sensitivities as well, is to see how your heart rate reacts to certain foods that you eat.
So why is that? Why does that happen, Ricky? Let's talk a little bit about that. The gut knowledge. As gut whisperers. Me from a standpoint that I had a lot of gut issues, and Ricky was my coach and my cheerleader, and Ricky's had gut issues as well, which prompted him to become such a well-known specialist on the topic. So why is it that the heart rate goes up like that?
Well, it's stress on the body, right? Your body gets bombarded with a high calories, so a lot more than you're eating. So it has a big digestive task to carry forward. But secondly, you're usually not making the best decisions. So with me, even though everything I ate was quote unquote gluten free. So just because you're gluten free doesn't mean you're healthy. But I did have corn chips. So that's one of the things. I did have a very high carb with mixed with dairy. That was the potato salad. So there's a lot of these foods that do stimulate your immune system, even in small amounts. And they've shown in studies that certain foods will actually cause a transient leaky gut period. So your gut barrier will actually compromise. But the big thing is inflammation, because if you're getting inflamed from any of these foods that you eat, your heart rate's going to go up. It's going to register it as a stress response. And we really only have fight or flight. So me eating that much, I actually created a stress response in my body. Mm-hmm. And that's why we feel lethargic afterwards. That's why we feel like we need to take a nap after we eat, right? It's kind of that I need a coffee. And I felt like that last night. Like it's like 9 p.m. I'm craving a coffee because I'm just like so brain dead and foggy. And Super Bowl didn't help. It wasn't that entertaining. So
Yeah.
I was just
Even if
falling
it was
asleep.
entertaining, it still doesn't help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So, and then biggest point that I found out this morning, just I had no idea. So it's like I'm learning about the perfect topic before we go live every day. You know what they're calling today? They're calling it National Poop Day in the US. And the reason for that is that municipal sewage governments and is it a sewage company or just the municipal sewage department of any city, they say today everything increases, like the sewage goes way up because of all the Super Bowl feasts, so nobody ever has as much food and as much waste being made as today. So they're actually calling it, like, it's like a download title, but it's National Poop Day today. So it's kind of ironic, right, that we kind of destroy our bodies because of one game or one event.
But well, here's the thing about the gut whispers. We will tell you that if you've been struggling with a gut issue, or maybe you have some bloating or constipation, that maybe your bowel elimination didn't go up, even though you did eat a lot of food. I know that used to happen for me. That all that would happen is that my belt would be unbuttoned. And it was funny that I started to analyze how many more belt holes I had to make in my belt as my bowel issue worsened. And what's crazy, my clothing while I was also sick shrunk. So I actually needed smaller clothing, because when things are getting inflamed in the bowel, usually there's a pretty inflamed process, some sort of infection going on. And you're not going to exactly have a lot of strength, cellular strength, to create a ton of muscle or even keep that muscle for that part. Since it is one of the first sort of food sources that these infections kind of go after. They just kind of start to take up their residence. So Ricky, I know you've seen a lot of people with a host and a slew. What is the wildest thing you've seen? Did you want to share an experience with people to see kind of like something that came up, and maybe it was a realization on the case of the patient to understand, oh, maybe that started because of this trigger or this cause? Anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the one of the first things that comes to mind is that I was working with a gentleman that works downtown. He's in the stock business and he's a really busy guy. And he said he would pretty much eat all of his meals standing up. So he would just be so busy. He'd be thinking about something he had to do. There really wasn't an official lunch, even though on paper it's illegal not to have a lunch, right? Or a lunch break, I should say. But he wasn't really taking breaks. And then cumulatively, over time, he started noticing heartburn for the first time. He started noticing acid reflux. And then he went to his doctor, and what he got was a proton pump inhibitor, which is a stomach acid suppressor, a pharmaceutical. And that did help him in the moment, because when he would take that and he would eat the exact same way, he wouldn't have the heartburn anymore. But when he came to see me years later, he had all lower digestive symptoms. And if you kind of break this down, even if there wasn't the stomach acid suppressor in the system, he was somebody who was eating under massive amounts of stress for a very long period of time. When you're stressed out, like I said earlier, you really only have fight or flight. So all that blood that's supposed to go to your central trunk from your heart, your digestive organs, your stomach, your liver, your gallbladder, your pancreas, all these digestive organs, the blood doesn't go there. It goes to your arms and your legs for you to either run away from this thing or fight it. So he was literally eating like heavier meals while standing, while making like next to no stomach acid or not great stomach acid, and then undigested
a lot of acidic coffee.
Yeah. And then we typically go there. And even when we're grabbing, like the busier we are, typically the faster the food we want. And that food usually involves like quick burgers and like fries and kind of like the oily, greasy stuff. And it's ironic because you're grabbing fast food, but that food should actually be the slowest to eat food. You should really spend your time eating that food if you are going to eat it, because that's already 10 times harder to digest than a cleaner food would be. So he was doing this for a very long time, but then undigested food kept going down his intestinal tract, kept going down. He eventually developed certain bacterial overgrowths in his gut just from chronic undigested food going down his stool, that out of nowhere one day he woke up and he's like, what the hell? I'm so bloated. How many of you guys experience bloating? It's kind of something we joke about. It's water cooler talk, right? So it's actually a very, very important sign. So we call ourselves the gut whisperer. That is one of the first whispers that your body is starting to show a dysfunctional pattern in your gut. So you're ending up with gut dysfunction. And that's usually the starting point. If you're noticing that you didn't used to have gas, now you have lots of gas. If your gas now has an odor, a smell, I just got another patient message me a couple of days back, and they had mentioned that out of nowhere, they're noticing that their stool has a very foul odor. And we added in some stomach acid support, and the odor went away completely. So it's a very fine line. But again, the foundation there is that they weren't digesting stuff. So post Super Bowl, like I've been really, really aware to, I'm fasting right now, haven't had anything other than water here. And then on the other side, I've been taking, or I took some last night, is some activated charcoal just to kind of help soak everything up. And I feel pretty good today. Like all being said, like considering what I ate yesterday, like my digestion's fine today, my energy's fine, but I'm sure my recovery's not fine. And we know that from tracking the ring. My recovery today told me that, or more specifically, my heart rate variability told me that I probably shouldn't do anything too strenuous today. I should probably take it easy, give my body the time it needs. So that's exactly what I'm doing today. Luckily, we got some good weather here. I'm going to be going for a walk soon and just take it super easy. So Andrew has his experience of binge eating in the past, although it is in the past. He's high performance 24/7. I can't break him. Like I've tried to like spike his food with like canola oil and stuff. He just doesn't eat it. He senses it. He is the gut whisperer.
Gets it out. And, it's a really interesting one, because when we first got the ring, I was really curious. Actually, Sachin was super curious to see what my sleep and recovery was like. And for me, gut health and digestion is all about intention. Because I had a lot of emotional eating patterns, and we're about to go live inside our private Facebook group with our Metabolic Reset family. And, if you're looking to finally get to the root of that emotional eating pattern and understand why you eat so much, or, maybe you've accumulated a fair bit of weight because, maybe you've had a toxic lifestyle or a toxic life, and certain things have slipped you up, and, maybe you've had a lot of stress, and you're looking at sort of a war-torn body after the dust settles. And that's what I was left with. And for me, I started to look back and say, hey, like, when did I start noticing the changes the most? The bloating, the weight, the poor sleep, the fatigue. And what's really, for me, that I think the most powerful thing is the more lights we have on at night, the more our body's stimulated into releasing daytime stress chemicals that say, hey, get up, get moving, you got work to do, go hunting, as our ancestors have programmed into us. And what then happens is then your sleep hormones, they're not ready. They're not projecting themselves deep into you. So your sleep gets confused, gets interrupted. Your cycles get shifted. Guess what then happens? Hormones are then released throughout the body that cause us to crave sugar more. So if you want to look at gut, it's not always just what's on your plate. It's, looking at your bedtime. Right? It's looking at your light pollution, right? The blue light that interacts with us is anti-health, essentially, right? It confuses the body. That's essentially what we're doing when we're staring at a screen late at night without protective eyewear. I don't have my other dark pair, but anyways. So for me, it was all about intention, saying, I'm about to eat this massive plate. And my first question is why? My second question is, why do I eat so fast? What am I trying to do? I mean, I could tell you stories that would blow your mind. Now, where did I get it from? Well, my father's still an absolute beast. Now, I'm going to continue on my trajectory of eating a reasonable amount. Even Tony Robbins actually said a really profound thing about this intention. And although intention's a lot of the high performance stuff that I do with Ricky and other fantastic people in our community, but two questions you'd want to ask yourself. And that'll help set the stage to see if you are ready to start making some changes, and ask yourself, is this really working? How do you feel when you take your shirt off in the summer, right? How does it feel when your pants don't fit you anymore? And then what I noticed, not only are my pants getting tighter, But then I'd sit down in a car, and that added even more pressure and stress because you got a belt, you got pants that are tighter, and that puts a lot of stress and strain on the bowel. So what I started to realize, I'm like, wait a second, what's going on here? So during my healing journey with Ricky, I actually would undo my belt, not with Ricky, but that's a whole other conversation. Monday Funday, woo!
Monday Funday after dark. Tune in tonight, guys.
So I would actually get into the car. Let's preface this a little better. Get into the car, and before I did my buckle, I'd undo the belt, and I'd even undo my button. And over time, what I realized is as I was healing, and I was in a car for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes, because I came from a different place. I came where I was doing a lot of traveling on the road and visiting automotive dealerships, right? And that was something I did. And I noticed that the sitting in the car and the stress on the waistline and the pressure, I let that open. And then I asked myself, and as I mentioned, Tony Robbins mentions this, and I believe unleashing, the beast within. And it's this. Number one, what are you feeling? And number two, what do you want to feel, right? So is this feeling right now, are you reacting emotionally to tough work, stress? Maybe your partner said something that was upsetting. Maybe you're having some financial hardships. Maybe you just aren't responding well to the weather. We have a tendency to use food as a drug because that's really what the drug companies and the food companies are counting on. And when you start to take control of those choices, guess what happens? You start making better ones. So if you're having unexpressed energy and you're eating, take a look at yourself when you're eating. And instead, maybe you need to go and relax for a little, go in your sauna, go for a walk. Best way to get rid of stress chemicals, go for a walk. Get the lymphatic system moving, right? Get that out. Do some deep breathing, even just relaxed breathing. Trick your body into thinking you're relaxed because you can actually do that. So what are you feeling and how are you responding? Be honest, right? I call it get real because the next question is how do you feel? And when you get real, sometimes it's a painful truth. I know it was for me. Maybe for many of you, I know Ricky was like, damn, I'm doing things that are beating myself up. But that's not what I want to feel. So what is the intention of what you want to feel? And moving towards that, having thoughts, taking actions, doing things that are going to make you feel your best. And that way it separates the reactive personality from the proactive personality. So although I had to react by undoing my belt and my pants to be able to when I sat, it wasn't that extra pressure. Then what started to happen is I started becoming more conscious of it, started noticing it more. And that was really the switch is I changed my intention, and with the support of Ricky, I had that bloating, that gentleman he just described. I never had the acid reflux, but I had that undigested, that bacterial overgrowth. And luckily it wasn't worse. I didn't have any major autoimmune, major ones, although I had a breathing challenge that arguably super autoimmune, right? When your system is just on fire and I'm unable to breathe. So that's kind of my take is set that intention. What are you feeling? What's actually coming up? Step back from your plate a minute and say, hey, maybe I'm actually thirsty. Maybe I'll drink some water, big cup of water, and wait 30 minutes before I eat. Because much of the time, what is actually perceived as hunger is in fact thirst. So Ricky, why don't you hit them off with your top 5 pieces of advice for how can they become, a gut whisperer in training?
Absolutely. The first thing here is it's intention. So Andrew said it beautifully. That's number one for sure, because what is your intention by eating that food? I can't say I have nachos 7 days a week. I can't even say I have nachos once a month. I rarely ever do it, but intentionally I had known that, okay, Super Bowl, I know we're going to make a healthy version. So our nachos were actually organic corn chips with organic green onions, organic tomatoes, organic salsa, and we had on grass-fed beef. So when I say nachos, it wasn't your store-bought nachos, right? But consciously, I was like, you know what? it's Super Bowl. This is something I've been doing for the last 15 years of watching football. It's something that I've enjoyed. Let's just do it. But I knew that it wasn't going to destroy my next day. I knew I wouldn't be calling Andrew this morning and be like, dude, we got to cancel Monday Funday. I got a food hangover. Like, I wasn't going to say that, right?
Showing up at 9:30 this morning. We were on a call at 9:30. Then we were on a call at 11. And we've been on the phone pretty much since. So,
and it's going to continue till like we're both putting in probably till 7 p.m. today. And then tomorrow we both got a webinar at night. So
we're going to be working right from like,
9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Yeah. So, and that's, you have to stay in that high performance state. So my intention was not to destroy myself. My intention was not to mask some sort of pain by indulging in this food. It was to have that pleasureful moment because A, I deserve it. And I truly felt that. And B, that, hey, I wasn't going overboard. Like it was a pleasure decision, but it wasn't a destroying my body. There's no kind of expense. So I'm doing perfectly okay today. Although my ring is my kind of BS detector, right? It told me that, hey, you probably shouldn't work out because of what you did yesterday.
What was your readiness this morning?
My readiness was 73.
Oh, wow. I haven't had
usually in the 90s. If I get a good night's sleep, I eat well, it's usually in the 90s. So, and readiness is a calculation of how ready you are to take on the day, work, and it's done by the ring.
This is honest, brother. Like, this is why the people love you, because we need to be honest. We need to say, hey, we're real examples of people that are in the journey. Now, the difference is that we can really snap our fingers and say, hey, what's that thought like? What's that action like? So I love that. Set the intention. Not only was a nacho platter super HP in terms of it being organic for the most part, but we also didn't overindulge. You didn't come showing up with emotional issues, which we can both clearly attest to, that we've swung at that baseball many times before. So what are the other big home runs or big touchdown passes that you can throw our Gut Whisperer family?
So the other one would be support yourself. Like I knew I was making that decision. So I did support myself with some digestive enzymes, with some activated charcoal as well. So I took that step. Number 3 is you got to know what you're doing the next day as well. Like I knew that the fact that I had such a big meal for dinner and even later than my typical dinner, I'm going to fast tomorrow morning. I'm going to drink tons of water tomorrow morning. I'm going to move my body tomorrow morning as well. The 4th one is always listen to your whispers before you listen to the scream. So if for many of you, like even when you don't eat bad, you have the bad symptoms, you have the bloating, the gas, the digestive issues. You really want to be looking into that. That is an early whisper. So you might want to experiment with cutting out some food groups early on. You might want to do something like an elimination diet, but something very small to see if it makes the changes for you. And number 5 is if you kind of exhaust all else and you just can't figure out why you feel the way you do. You can't really listen to your gut in that same way anymore. You might have something deeper going on. So that's where me and Andrew are big, passionate fans of getting tested, because tests expose a layer to you that you don't know overall. So make sure you guys are taking care of your gut, because I know all of our previous podcasts, almost all, have been on the performance aspect and really being the highest performer you can. But guess what? Your gut is kind of like a bottleneck, right? It's kind of like, it's going to define your ceiling. It's going to limit how far you can go.
Right. Yeah. If you want to get out of dirty, murky waters in your life, we need to pull that anchor up. And that would require you to connect with Dr. Ricky here and get in to see him and acknowledge that, maybe you've been really battling, you've had a busy life. I know that is the norm. People working multiple jobs, multiple stressors and hardships. And at the end of the day, and I was actually on with a client today and we were talking about gut health. And for me, I actually realized I was having a hard time digesting emotionally my circumstances, financially, purpose related, relationships that were not stretching me in a growth frame. So if something's going on in the midsection, when you get the butterflies because someone's kind of being creepy and your first goal is to put your arms over, well, your gut actually has some serious intuition, right? Visceral instincts. Trust your gut, right? If that guy on the date is super creepy, you've trusted your gut before, right? Maybe right now, like me and Ricky look super creepy. That's okay. You don't have to tune into Monday Funday. but we'll be here regardless.
We'll have fun without you guys.
Yeah, we're going to still have fun. So, so there's an innate instinct there, and if we're throwing, you know, food and alcohol and excess on it, we're trying to numb it out, and we're not focusing on that feeling, and we're focused on what's outside of us, and we kind of lose contact with us. So we'll continue this discussion in a later show. Ricky, any closing, any parting words with our family?
No, just don't feel guilty about it, guys. Like we're all guilty of it. We all indulge once in a while, right? It's about balance. And the key thing there is to realize your intention. So if you guys are feeling bad today, if your Aura ring's telling you you're not ready for a big day, like realize that it was your decision to do that. You got to live with it. You got to own up to it, right? So let us know what you guys did for your Super Bowl, if you guys did anything, or if any of you guys had an episode like me, or if you guys were all like goody two-shoes like Andrew over here.
Tom Brady.
Yeah, ultra high performance. I'm not a New England fan, but you can't deny it. He is the GOAT. He is the greatest of all time.
I bet his belly and his brain are like just off the charts.
For sure. Well, enjoy the rest of your enjoy the rest of your guys today, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. See, that's because I ate bad yesterday. Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and we'll be back soon. Bye.